The breaststroke exercise has so many preparatory levels to it that you kind of wonder whether you're ever going to get to that final level. But once you do get to the final level, you can kind of see what all the fuss was about, because the breaststroke is an exercise which is incredibly easy to get wrong, and subtle differences can really set in place movement patterns you definitely don't want to entrench. So that's why the prep levels are so important. I teach 4 of those prep levels, and I think it's only until you get to this last level that you recognise why they're all important. So it goes without saying, as is often the case with this type of exercise, that if you are not good at all of those preparatory levels and you can't do them for quite a duration, you don't want to attempt the final level, because you risk just overstraining things and then causing problems which techniques I teach are trying to avoid, we're trying to eliminate. It's an advanced level exercise, the breaststroke, and it starts from the same position as the level 4 breaststroke prep, which is lying on your front with your hands acting as a head cushion underneath your head. So that's where I'll start the tutorial in just a moment. All of the key elements which have been covered in the preparatory levels must be maintained in this one. The neutral spine, we want to try and keep that nominal gap underneath the navel, that feeling of lightness where the lower abdominal muscles are coming up and helping, supporting, keep a neutral spine. We can accentuate that by keeping the belt line and the rib cage pulled together and just giving that core stability, that girdle of support around that midsection, ticking over while we perform our movements. Now, although the legs will look like they're lightening and there'll be a kind of tendency for the feet to want to come up, the more you can keep the legs out of the equation, the more you're going to be utilising the right muscles. What you don't want to do is to let the legs lift at any point through your breaststroke, but it will be a challenge for some people to try and keep them out of the picture. The shoulders as well, remember in the preparatory levels we don't want the shoulders hunched up towards the ears. So going to our start position, one other thing I would say, as I've just looked over to the side, is it's worth just checking that you've got clearance in a semicircular arm pattern when it comes to our breaststroke final pattern. Keep the chin tucked in, head resting on the hands, shoulders retracted, neutral spine engaged, and for our breaststroke we come up into our, essentially that level 4 breaststroke prep. And from here we reach out in front, and as we pull the arms back to the side, we're able to lift a little bit higher, and then as we bring the hands back, they basically go on top of one another once again and come back under the head so we can lower down. So for a smoother demonstration, float up, reach out, pull through, and then you return. Reach, as you sweep round, exhale, and you're in that lovely kind of hydrodynamic position. Hands drawing back, palms facing the thighs, and the dorsal raise has increased. Chin tucked in though. Inhale, exhale, push. Inhale, exhale, push through the water. As you come back, those hands touch each other and the front of your head. And then we have the Pilates Breaststroke. So the challenges with this exercise are preventing your lumbar spine going into significant extension, which is why you want to really think about the activation of that abdominal wall to prevent that from happening. As you come up and into your pull through, that's where the challenge will really be met, because that's where you want to extend the lumbar spine, but you're really trying to stop that happening. The other thing which I tend to see a lot of when people do this is as they come into that pullback, they'll hyperextend the neck. So you don't want to be pulling through and then looking up out in front of you. Keep the chin tucked in so that neck is staying relatively neutral. So when you come through in your dorsal raise, your arm pull back, you've got that control. Don't worry if you're not getting much lift. Don't worry if you're not very high off the floor. I think it's worth remembering with any of these dorsal raise exercises, of which the breaststroke is of course one of them. The moment you bring yourself up off the floor, you're already in the realm of hard work. Your extensor muscles down the back line of your body have already got you off the floor, and so therefore they're doing a lot of work. When your arms go out in front, the leverage increases and you've got all of this weight up here trying to pull you down. So when you're in that position, that's where there's a lot of hard work being done, and as you come back, you feel the load lightening, which should allow you to get that extra thoracic extension, that extra lift. Depends on body type, depends on weight of head, depends on musculature up top. There might be a lot of leverage out over the top of your body before you come back and do that pull through. So this is why you just have to have done all of those levels beforehand really well to make sure that you're well equipped for this particular exercise. You can, as a modification, place a pillow underneath your upper stomach. Now if you do that, it's going to add in a different fulcrum to the movement and will allow you significant ease in performing this exercise. But I mean, I think that's maybe just a modification to very gentler levels of exercise rather than something you want to be thinking about. If you're needing that sort of artificial fulcrum underneath your body, then you don't want to be exercising at an advanced level anyway. So really that's just for those people who maybe are looking to give extra variety to a lower level of Pilates exercise. Anyway, the breaststroke is a great exercise. It feels quite nice when you're doing that sequence, and you can use that as endurance, you can use it as singular reps. But just as always, make sure the form is good, and of course make sure you're not feeling excessive tightness and pinching in and around your lumbar spine if you're performing this one.